Hello, I'm Liam Turner, the digital editor at CIH. As part of the 2026 vice presidential election, I've been speaking with hopeful candidates to find out a bit more about them, their background, and why they would like to become the next vice president and ultimately president of CIH. In this video, I sit down with Lee Buss-Blair, a CIH fellow who has worked in the supported housing space for 27 years. Lee currently serves as Director of Operations and Group Veterans Lead at Housing Association Riverside and is known by many as the Veteran Guy for reasons Lee gets into in our conversation. Here's what Lee had to say. Okay, if we could just start then, Lee, could you just start by telling us a little bit about your journey into housing and what kind of first inspired you to work in the sector?
My journey into the housing sector was not linear by any means. I actually left school at 15 and joined the army. I was a junior leader for a year, and then I trained as a tank soldier. Tanks are cool. But after my experiences in the first Gulf War, I was deployed in the first Gulf War in an armored reconnaissance role. I decided after that experience that I just wanted to do something completely different, something that was about helping people. So my first job after I left the army was as a healthcare assistant on the HIV ward at St Bartholomew's in London, which was at the height of the AIDS crisis. I did that for 8 years, and actually looking back, that was probably even more traumatic than my experiences of combat. Then a friend of mine who worked in the supported housing sector encouraged me to apply for a job where he worked, and I got my first job in the sector as a support worker in a supported housing scheme for people with mental health issues. And almost immediately, I felt like I'd found my place, that I'd found where I belonged. Lots of veterans, when they leave the service, really struggle with a sense of a loss of purpose. And the housing sector has really given me that sense of purpose, a mission, something to believe in, which fits with my own personal values as well, and has been an opportunity to really make a difference, which is something I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've had a kind of rich and varied career in the sector so far. But what would you say has been your proudest moment to date?
That's a really difficult question because I'm always proud of my team at Riverside, 1,400 colleagues across England and what they achieve day in and day out with our, 15,000 customers. Um, I'm also really proud of them. I was so proud of them during COVID, even right at the start when no one knew what was happening. We didn't know how to make ourselves
Mm.
safe. The height of the anxiety, they turned up to work to support their customers day in and day out. And to me, they are all heroes. Um, and on a personal level, I'm really proud of the impact that I've had working with government, influencing government policy around the professionalisation agenda, the Supported Housing Regulatory Oversight Act, and other areas of government policy, which have had a really positive impact on the profession and the people that we're here to serve. But I would have to say that probably my proudest moment is the impact that I've had on veterans experiencing homelessness,
Hmm.
where I successfully campaigned for a number of years for the government to fund veteran supported housing, which wasn't getting any funding, as well as create a central point of contact for veterans experiencing homelessness. Which led to the creation of Op Fortitude. So not only was this campaign successful, but we're now coming towards the end of our third year, and we've touched the lives of over 4,000 veterans, with another further 3 years of funding already secured. So that's around 28 million over a 6-year period, and I'm extremely proud of that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Absolutely, yeah. And I know you've been involved with CIH in kind of one way or another for quite a while, and I believe you're a fellow of CIH as well. So just wondered what does CIH mean to you?
I mean, there's a number of things. Uh, I would start off by saying just reminding people that when tenants, residents were consulted as part of the development of the social housing white paper, one of the things that came across really clear is that people remembered not just what we do, but how we make them feel, how
Hmm.
engaging with us and interacting with us made them feel. Now, every resident has strengths, they deserve dignity, and have the right to be heard, seen as an equal, and not just as a combination of the various challenges that they may face. Now, we've still got a long way to go before there's a consistent experience, a consistent positive experience for residents of social housing.
Yeah.
But making that happen is something that's really important and really drives me. I've actually experienced it firsthand. I grew up on a council estate in Brighton that's one of the most deprived areas in the UK. Um, and it's not uncommon when people hear where I grow up for them to be visibly surprised because people who come from where I come from apparently aren't supposed to achieve anything. Now, CIH plays an absolutely critical role in the professionalisation of the sector through providing learning, knowledge, those kind of things, and also the opportunity to engage with and learn from peers across the sector, which is something I've personally gained a huge amount from. And a big chunk of my own CPD comes from CIH activities. But CIH also has an important role to play by setting a consistent standard of behaviours as well, those things that influence how we make people feel.
Hmm.
I think the professional standards and the code of ethics, they set a bar for everyone in the sector that we should all be measuring ourselves against as part of the reflection that we all need to be able to develop and grow as individuals. So CIH plays a really critical role for all of us in the sector to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, to ensure that the people that we serve get the high quality experience that they deserve.
Yeah. And as we're well aware, that there are a lot of different issues that the housing sector as a whole is kind of trying to grapple with at the minute. But what's the one issue that you think currently isn't getting enough attention or as much attention as it should?
It's such an interesting question. I think, we can't talk enough about the professionalisation of the sector and improving the resident experience. It's something that has to be at the forefront of our minds constantly and something that we are always striving to achieve.
Hmm.
But one of the things that we don't necessarily talk about enough is how we create the right context for that to actually become a reality. Now, while we've all got a personal responsibility to ensure that we're working against a set of professional standards, be it CIHs or our own organisations, or ideally both, people don't work in a bubble.
Hmm.
They work within frameworks that are defined for them by the organisations that they work in. And if that framework doesn't support people working in a way that creates the behaviours we want to see, success is much, much harder to achieve.
Yeah.
Now, organisations all have a set of values. They state their values, but there are a number of things that people see or they experience that tell them what our values actually are. So they're visible things like policies, procedures, processes, systems, language, but critically for me, leadership styles as well. If our leadership styles are inconsistent
Hmm.
with the values that we want every colleague to live and breathe day in and day out, it's really unlikely to happen. So I think that's one thing that we don't talk enough about. How do we create the right context for colleagues to work in that results in the behaviours that we want to see
Hmm.
when we're working with residents?
Yeah. And the final question I've got for you then, Lee, just wondered why you've decided to stand for to become the next vice president at this moment. Why now?
Um, for the very reason that we've just covered, because I want us to be talking more about what leadership do we need to support the profession to be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Yeah.
Now, for a very long time, I've championed the use of strength-based approaches for people experiencing homelessness because it starts from a really simple but powerful truth. Everyone has strengths, deserves dignity, and should be seen for more than the challenges that they face. But that approach with people experiencing homelessness isn't effective because they're experiencing homelessness, it's effective because they're people.
Mhm.
So the same is true for colleagues. Colleagues have strength, they deserve dignity, and should be seen for more than just the challenges that they face. When we recognise the potential in people, we create the conditions for growth, for confidence, and for lasting change. So that's a sector leadership movement that I want to build, focused on people's strengths, one that lives our values and is ambitious for the future. Um, one that makes leadership more human, more inclusive, more consistent, and more accountable, and improves both the colleague experience and the resident experience as a result. And I think I see the CIH Vice Presidency as a great opportunity to start that conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I said that was going to be the last question, but I just wondered if you had any kind of final thoughts that you wanted to leave viewers with.
So many thoughts, but I will keep this brief. Um, so I've been really lucky in my career. You know, not only do I have a job that I love, that gives me so much, but I've had the opportunity to develop a level of expertise, although it always feels slightly cringy using the word expert when you're talking about yourself. But I have had an opportunity to develop that expertise and create a level of credibility. And I've got a strong track record of them being able to use that credibility to influence change to the benefit of both residents, colleagues, and the sector overall. I really do view the presidency as an opportunity to further build on this and to give back to the sector that I owe so much to. So I would really value people's support in helping to make that a reality by giving me their vote, please.
Perfect. Yep. Well, thanks very much, Lee, and best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much.